Hello, my sentient noodles, and welcome to this week's episode of SCUBA, where we dive deep into history and current events. I'm Hailey, a junior here at WCWC Centerville, 107.3 FM, the voice of the Elks, and welcome to the Plague episode. If you're a regular listener, you'll know that I do not sound like this regularly. I happen to be rather sick, hence, Plague episode. This has been a long time coming, harking back to the pre-plague times when I got really into yellow fever. So if the air goes dead, don't assume that I am. I'll be back. Now, it's time to strap on your Plague Doctor masks, check your flashlight batteries, and 3, 2... You're a French peasant in 1518, living in Strasbourg, Alsace. It is a summer morning before the sun has started to scorch, and you are opening up the bakery you run with your family. The streets are busy, as they should be on a morning like this one. Your daughter catches your sleeve, gesturing at the street. Not now, you tell her, your hands full of baked goods. She tugs again, insistently, and you don't look until she tells you it's Frau Trofa, a family friend. What about her, you ask, finally glancing outside. In the street, a circle has cleared around a woman, frantically dancing like the devil is her partner and has her by the hand. It is Frau Trofa, but this is unexpected. She's a respectable, dutiful Catholic woman, and this behavior is unseemly. Best not to get involved, you decide, and order your children to stay inside. You wish she hadn't chosen to do this directly outside your store, but you can just as easily duck your head and carry on. By noontime, when the sun is high and hot, Frau Trofa is still dancing. The crowds have moved along, seeking refuge from the heat or to continue with the day's work, and they just leave a berth between her and them as they struggle through. Your business is lighter, but not dangerously so. As the sun starts to set and Frau Trofa is still dancing, you worry. You go out of the store with a heel of bread in hand to give to her. As you draw closer, you notice that her face is not the merry, if exhausted visage you'd expected. Instead, she looks panicked and in pain. She recognizes and reaches out to you as you come close, and the mania in her eyes is startling. You press the bread into her hand, careful not to touch her sweat-slick palms. "Water," she pleads, and you nod. She cannot speak more than a word at a time because she is so out of breath, but you learn that she does not want to be dancing like this. You tell her that you will give it the night and call the priest in the morning, and return home to sleep, expecting her to do likewise. She still dances as the sun rises, and blood pools inside her shoes, leaving gory footprints in the street as the dance to a song only she hears continues. She's crying now, and you need only to make eye contact with her to see that she has not had reprieve. You call the priest, and he declares that it is the devil, taking over Frau Trofa's mind and body. The physician he consults tells you all that the cure is to let her dance it out, and so she continues. Business is worse again, and you are resigned to it. Around midday, there's a commotion outside. Another person has joined the dance. Together, the two dance through the day, joined by a growing crowd of people from everywhere. Children, adults, men, women, dancing to a song no one else can hear, frantic and panicked and sobbing. There are dozens soon. You and your neighbors all work to feed them, and your business booms in the meantime. The crowd is still growing when Frau Trofa collapses. She is dead of heat stroke or heart attack, and it becomes clear that after a week of constant dancing, simply dancing yourself out will not end this bloody festival. Still, no one knows anything else to do, and guild halls are opened out for the dancers to occupy, filled with musicians and strong men to keep them upright. They flail when they collapse, until they still entirely, trying to continue the dance. There are over 200 dancers when you feel the pull. You need to dance. You need to dance now. You leave the family and join the ranks, terrified for your life. As many as 15 people have been dying each day, and no one has stopped yet. People start to join the fete without being compelled, the 10th day you dance. They claim the dance is a punishment from St. Vitus, and this is how they can cleanse themselves from their sins. You do not know how you could have sinned in such a way in which the people had the good sense to stop since they could. Public dancing is banned, then music as well, in a half-hearted attempt to dissuade the dancers. Predictably, nothing happens. You joined in after a month of the dancing, and in early September, the flow of people joining the dance from compulsion begins to stop. The council orders that everyone that dances must go to the shrine of St. Vitus to pray for absolution like you hadn't already been pleading. You force yourself to dance to the monastery, surrounded by hordes of those compelled. Once there, the monks distribute red shoes that have been sprinkled with holy water. You are in the lucky first group and hold a cross as they chant incantations over the dancers. You're free. You collapse to the ground, saved, exhausted. Free. Your feet are blistered and bloody and raw, and you recover at the monastery for a long time before you return home. Home, to a town with streets stained with the blood of dancers, mourning the scores that fell to the compulsion, to what may have been penance. You never dance again. Okay, the dancing plague of 1518 sounds made up. It's ridiculous. Compulsive dancing until you die? And very medieval. Kind of reminds me of the fairy tale involving the red-hot iron shoes. I think Snow White, with that being the evil stepmother's punishment. It's definitely a Grimm Brothers story. So at the time, the dance mania was believed to be a punishment from St. Vitus, but there were also a couple other conflicting theories, as there always are. The two big ones were that demons were possessing the people of Strasbourg, which is also very medieval, or that people's blood was getting overheated. 1518 science, diverse cutting edge. How would one's blood overheat? Like, exclusively the blood without a full-body fever? Would boiling blood affect someone like the Benz does? Things to ask a doctor when I get a spare second. Companion podcast of SCUBA, coming 2024. Also on Things to Ask a Doctor. How exactly would it feel to get shot in the thigh so I can write about it realistically? And what exactly does demonia do to a body? Okay, that sounds really interesting, but I'm not going to do it because you put up with a lot, divers, and I will not make you put up with that too. Take it as a mark of my affection. I did, however, ask a doctor. The answers? Blood could boil if it were in a vacuum, and that has happened before. And yes, that's what the bends are. Back to the dancing plague. Obviously, our medieval medical knowledge didn't explain things well, and since all evidence has survived 505 years, it's not the most accurate or specific. Modern theories also conflict because science. There are two main ones. First of all, stress-induced mass hysteria, which would be a much more fun way to have a panic attack, I think. Community panic attack, if you will. It would have been a mass psychogenic illness, which is basically when everyone gets the same illness affecting the brain, which would have been exacerbated by stress, because all states were having a bad time in famine. It could have manifested as chorea, which are seizure-like movements that can affect the entire body and appear like a dance. The other main theory is ergot poisoning. I've been unable to determine if it's ergot or ergo, so we're going to stick with ergot because silent letters are dumb. This is a fungus that likes to grow on rye, which is the main grain of the area, and would give seizures, fevers, and hallucinations to those affected. Ergot is used in psychoactive drugs today, so here's the official chance to get high on rye, which I do not endorse. We do not know, and we will never really know what caused the dancing plague, so it languishes in the past as a tidbit for history nerds, plague enthusiasts, and doctors alike. It also inspired the song Choreomania by Florence and the Machine, which happens to be killer, and queued up right now.
And I am freaking out in the middle of the street, with the complete conviction of someone who's never had anything actually really bad happen to them. But I am committed now to the feeling. I don't know how it started, don't know how to stop it. Suddenly I'm dancing to imaginary music. Something's coming, so out of breath. I just kept spinning and I danced myself to death. Something's coming, so out of breath. I just kept spinning and I danced myself to death. I'll be your demon daddy. And they speak to you, 'cause they speak to me too. The pressure and the panic you push your body through. Something's coming, so out of breath. I just kept spinning and I danced myself to death. Something's coming, so out of breath. I just kept spinning and I danced myself to death. You said that
So, in 1518, humans were not pillars of public health. This was also the case in 1854, especially in cities, especially in London. And Jon Snow is about to change that fact. You were born in 1813 in the slums of London. Your home is frequently flooded by the River Ouse, and the streets are contaminated constantly by industrial runoff, sewage, and what I can only refer to as cemetery juices. You're quick and clever at math and obtain an apprenticeship at age 14, learning to be a surgeon. In 1832, when you're 19, you encounter your first cholera epidemic in a mining town. You treat patients and study how they get sick, avoiding what you think may have caused the illness. You're teetotal, abstaining from drinking alcohol, vegetarian, and try your best to drink only pure, distilled water as you rise the ranks and enroll at a formal medical school. You always have your hand in cholera studies, so your area of expertise is anesthesiology. You publish groundbreaking papers in the inhalation of vapors of ether and study chloroform as well. You even administer chloroform to... One moment, guys. You even administer chloroform to Queen Victoria on the births of her 8th and 9th children, which gives new honor to your field. But the pinnacle of your medical achievements is yet to come. London is plagued with the blue fever. Cholera reaches everyone, poor and wealthy, forcing them to expel fluids in any way possible until they die of dehydration, tinged blue at the fingers and lips, giving the disease its colloquial name. Doctors claim that it is spread through bad air, miasma, but as this is before the advent of germ theory, you don't believe it. A very specific part of Soho is hit particularly hard by the blue fever, and you take interest. You compose a dot map of the victims of the fever, marking off each individual case, and find that the vast majority of cases center around one specific communal water pump on Broad Street. There are only 10 cases recorded in homes closer to other pumps, but half of the households claim that they like the Broad Street pump best, and the other cases are all children who go to school near the Broad Street pump. The well is spreading the disease, you're sure of it. Cases have begun to drop off as the residents of Broad Street and the surrounding areas fled in fear of the miasma, but you take your findings to the local council and get them to remove the handle of the pump, disabling it entirely. Public health officials begin to research the pump and discover that it was dug just 3 feet from an old cesspit that had previously been attached to a house that was rebuilt elsewhere, leaving the cesspit to disappear out of the streets. It had begun to leak through the ground to the well, and a cloth diaper from a baby who'd contracted cholera is discovered to be the culprit of this particular outbreak. The pump is taken out of commission, and your theory that cholera is spread through water spreads, like a plague, across the world's scientific community. You die young from a stroke caused by intense exposure to anesthetics and are honored by the medical community to this day. I know how it sounds, but I fell in love with cholera as a kid. I read someone's historical fiction novel from the point of view of Jon Snow's young apprentice during the pump study, and I adored the story and proceeded to read everything I could get my hands on about cholera. It is still my favorite plague, if I can say that without sounding insane, because of the leaps and bounds it took for epidemiology and public sanitation. The water problem wasn't fixed in London for a long time coming, but Snow brought the problem to light and set change in the works. I highly recommend reading a better research story, or Snow's personal accounts, because there are so many intricacies and moving parts in Snow's breakthrough. The book I read as a kid was called The Great Trouble, A Mystery of London, The Blue Death, and a Boy Called Eel, and was lent to me while I was, ironically, out sick from school. In a slightly less perfect song choice, here's The Well by the Crane Wives. Not about the Broad Street pump, but about how unspoken words will fill up a well with bad. It's a metaphor, and also a great song by my favorite band, Woo.
In my chest, like spare coins poised on the tip of my tongue, I make a wish and hold my breath. Send me anywhere, take me out. I'm the well, they're gonna drag it down. Send me anywhere, take me out. I'm the well, they're I couldn't save you. A ready army in my throat. I taste blood, I'm sick of swallowing stones. So I'll wave the flag, tell the boys to go home. Send me anywhere, take me out. I'm the well, they're gonna drag you down. Send me anywhere, take me out. I'm the well, they're gonna drag you down.
I've avoided talking about the actual plague this long, and I should probably suck it up and get to it. The Black Plague divers the plague of Ring Around the Rosie and Plague Doctor fame, the one that killed 30% of the population of Europe. You are called Procopius, and you are the court historian for Emperor Justinian of the Byzantine Empire. In 541, the emperor's court receives news of a new and unusual sickness in a port of Roman Egypt that had ships from across the known world docking regularly. Those infected have fevers, spasms, and swelling called buboes across their body, specifically in the groin area. The buboes grow progressively larger and, in severe cases, burst. The victims often vomit blood and begin to rot even as they live, as the disease eats them from the inside out. The plague kills nearly everyone it touches, and sets on too quickly for Justinian to do anything about it. In weeks, it has spread across his holdings and to Constantinople, not Istanbul, his capital. Farmers drop like flies, and a famine grips the empire. Justinian does not have mercy on the ravaged populations, though, and continues to levy crippling taxes as he sits on his throne. A year into the plague's spread, he falls ill, as well, and you isolate yourself with the records you've been keeping. If the emperor can fall ill, anyone can, and you keep an anxious eye on his physician's remedies. Miraculously, the emperor recovers. Though he does not lift his taxes, he begins to import grain from Africa. Somehow, this only seems to make it worse. At the height of the 4-year first wave of the plague, thousands of people die in Constantinople every day. You see that there's no room to bury the dead, and the streets become choked with rotting bodies, both dead and alive. The city reeks of the dead, and it is only by isolation that you manage to survive, and write your secret history concealed from Justinian. In your book, you blame the plague on the emperor and his corrupt, entitled ways, and by virtue of outliving him, you were able to publish it unhindered and without being executed. You know, if the plague hadn't been so bad, I would have said that Procopius was living the life. He got paid a retainer to keep a journal, and his journal was about how lame his boss was. Doesn't sound too awful. On the complete other side of the awful spectrum, this was just the first part of the first wave of the bubonic plague. It killed 40% of the Byzantine Empire in a roughly 10-year period before it lifted. Emperor Justinian's habits did not help either. In addition to importing grain, he was known to buy luxury goods from legitimately everywhere he could. I'm sure we all know that the Black Plague was spread by fleas. It's a common thing to know, right? I have very vivid memories of reading an article about that in elementary school and being freaked out by animals for a while. But I digress. The fleas, which rode on rats, which rode on ships, which brought imported goods from near and far. So in a way, I guess the outbreak was partially Justinian's fault. The Black Death era, the one we all think about, was a second wave almost 600 years later, and was similar but more widespread. It's the plague that gave us, "Bring out your dead!" Smack a bucket with a stick, and "I'm not dead yet, just give it a minute!" As well as the snazzy, bird-like doctor masks. It was used as a biological weapon by the Mongols as they invaded Italian holdings in Crimea and killed a third of all Europeans. The third, and hopefully final, you can't see me frantically looking for wood to knock on, wave of the Black Plague was in the mid-1700s to the late 1800s and spawned a whole lot of racism. The plague came from China, and people were quick to realize this and shun the Chinese from all trade routes. This is the era that gets romanticized the hardest, with dramatic fainting, elites freeing to live together in fancy manners in the country, and a whole lot of classic literature. Shakespeare's King Lear was written while he was quarantined, and Chaucer's The Decameron is a book of short stories about a group of 7 young women in quarantine. Let's just be glad we're not catapulting dead bodies over city walls with the intent to weaken enemy armies or rotting from the inside out. No matter how you frame it, the Black Plague was a bad time. I have to do this to you guys now. We talked about Constantinople, but it's Istanbul, not Constantinople, and They Might Be Giants are here to get that name changed through your head.
Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople, been a long time gone. Constantinople, now it's church delight on a moonlit night. Every gal in Constantinople lives in Istanbul, not Constantinople. So if you've a date in Constantinople, she'll be waiting in Istanbul. Even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. So take me back to Constantinople. No, you can't go back to Constantinople. Been a long time gone. Constantinople, why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Istanbul. 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 Even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Been a long time gone, but Constantinople. Why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Constantinople. No, you can't go back to Constantinople. Been a long time gone. Constantinople. Why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Istanbul.
I need to let you guys know that this is not a COVID erasure show. But you know what? It has enough screen time. We had a modern plague and we're still dealing with the repercussions. My violin teacher had to cancel a lesson this past week because she caught it. Love songs have been written, memes have been made, and the social and intellectual development of Generation Z have been stunted. COVID does not need SCUBA, and SCUBA most definitely does not need COVID. So we're gonna skip. No COVID. And as I mentioned, divers, today's episode is 100% because I am sick right now and feel like garbage. Please remember to wash your hands, wear a mask, and establish a dependency and strong opinions on cough drops when you're not feeling your best. Thank you all for listening to SCUBA on WCWT Centerville 107.3 FM, the voice of the Elks. And now it's time to return to the surface. Stay healthy, divers.